Hey traders, it's John Fortune here of this week's Weekly Forex Forecast. We're going to run through over 30 markets as we usually do, highlighting targets in each market for the week ahead. And as we go through the markets today, we're going to be building out a high probability watch list for next week. Out of the 25 markets we highlighted for you last week as high probability, 23 of them reached their targets, only 2 of them failed to do so last week. If we look at the total number of trending markets over the last 4 weeks, you can see this has been increasing. And last week, it was the first week which we actually had a decline. So you're seeing a slowing and a peaking of the total number of trending markets. This just hints that next week may be slightly corrective, may lack a bit of volatility. So just bear that in mind when you're trading next week. A good policy for next week will be to pick out the best pairs and avoid over trading lots and lots of markets next week. So let's begin by having a look at the dollar index. I have been noting over previous weeks that the dollar index looks to be in a fourth wave correction, and I do expect this to come down to the 88.46 in the near future. I'd highlighted previously the 90.05 to look for a break of this level to kickstart, be the signal for the next decline to the downside towards the 88.46. We did break this level last week, however, in the dollar, because of a sell-off in stocks, we got some volatility coming in and we got a little bit of a risk-off move to the upside in the dollar. And it looks to be setting up a potential A, B, C, D, E. This pattern is known as an expanding triangle. And an expanding triangle represents extreme disagreements between the buyers and the sellers. So going into next week, although we broke the 90.05, and this is likely to be the signal that we're heading now down to the 88.46 in due course, I do personally believe, once again, that the better trading opportunities, as it has been the case for the last 4 weeks, is going to be outside of the dollar pairs when we go through the markets, rather than the dollar pairs themselves. Next is crude oil. Added to the watch list last week as one to watch, we did take out the target of the 63.37. Very simply put, going into this week, we've started to correct already, and any further correction is going to be viewed once again as an opportunity to look for bullish reversals in this market. We're going to be looking up towards the next key resistance, the upside, the target set at 65.53. Next is euro dollar. Last week I highlighted the fact I wanted to see as a preference this market reversing to the upside in line with its overall trend. We did get that last week, but we started to sell off hard with that sell-off in stocks. Going into this week, the problem with euro dollar is, although we are structured to the upside in this market, it's that expanding triangle I'm seeing in the dollar pairs. It's showing extreme disagreement. And when you have extreme disagreement, when you have that expanded triangle pattern, you usually want to move away from that market into other markets, finding volatility, finding more consensus with the trend than a kind of choppy pattern like an expanded triangle. So it doesn't go on the watch list this week. However, if you are looking to trade euro dollar, the preferable opportunity by far would be to look for bullish reversals in this market, up towards the next key of resistance, the upside, the target set at the 1.2303. Next is pound dollar. Highlighted as one to watch last week, we did take out both targets to the upside. I do like this market going into next week, although I'm primarily going to be looking for setups outside of the dollar pairs. This is still one to watch for next weekend. Within the dollar pairs, if you are looking to trade the dollar pairs, I think pound dollar to the upside is one of the better opportunities. We've already started to pull back, so any breakout, any reversal to the upside in this market is simply going to be viewed once again as an opportunity to look for long positions, up towards the next key of resistance, the upside, the target set with a 1.4281. Next is US dollar yen. Added to the watch list last week, we did take out both targets to the upside in this market, and we finished the week at the second target, picking the high almost to the pip. Going into this week, this is a market within the dollar pairs that I do like the look of next week. Any correction in this market this week is simply going to be viewed once again as an opportunity to look for bullish reversals. I'm going to be looking up towards the next key of resistance, the upside, the target set at the 107.04. Next is Aussie dollar. Highlighted as one to watch last week, we did take out both targets to the upside before reversing and selling off. This is a risk-off move. Money coming out of the commodity currency Australian dollar into the more safe haven currency of the US dollar. This is because of that sell-off we saw in stocks. It did very briefly reverse the near-term trend in Aussie dollar, so we are structured to the downside. This is not going on the high probability watch list, however, next week. If you are looking to trade this market, the preference would be for a pullback towards the 0.7929, and any bearish breakout would be viewed as the opportunity to short this down towards the next key of support to the downside, the target set at the 0.7659. Next is New Zealand dollar. Highlighted as one to watch last week, we took out both targets before selling off with that sell-off in stocks again. We saw money coming out of the commodity currencies. Going into this week, I do still favor long positions in this market. This is down as one to watch again. You can see the targets are actually within last week's move. Usually they're above or below. But because of the amount of volatility we had in this market last week, the targets are within the move of last week. So very simply put, any further correction in this market towards the 0.71950 is going to be viewed next week as an opportunity to look for bullish reversals up towards the next key of resistance, the upside and the target set at the 0.7358. Next, we have US dollar Swiss franc. Last week, we took out the target to the upside, and that was almost to the pip, the high of the week. Going into this week, this is not going down on the high probability watch list. However, if you are looking to trade this market, the preferable setups, once again, would be to the upside. Any correction back towards 0.88970, viewed as the opportunity to look for long positions, up towards the 0.9161. Next is US dollar CAD. Highlighted as one to watch to the downside last week, we did take out the target set before reversing higher. Going into this week, the market is structured to the upside. It comes off the high probability watch list. I think there are better markets to trade next week. Anybody looking to trade this, however, the better preferable setup would be a correction back towards the 1.25790, viewed as the opportunity to look for long positions, up towards the 1.2798. Next is gold. Last week we highlighted the 1745.47 to the downside, and we did take out this target at the end of last week. Going into this week, I still favor short positions in this market, but it is not on the high probability watch list. Any correction in this market should be viewed overall as an opportunity to look for short positions, down towards the next key of support to the downside and the target set at the 1695.18. Next is Euro Yen. Highlighted as one to watch to the upside last week, we did take out the target at the 129.26. Going into this week, I still favor long positions in this market, and I do like this market. We have nice momentum, so any further correction is going to be viewed next week as an opportunity to look for bullish reversals in this market. And I'm going to be looking up towards the next key of resistance, the upside and the target set at the 130.59. Next is franc yen. Franc yen is a very choppy market. I don't recommend this market next week. I personally won't be trading it, and it won't be on the high probability watch list. For anybody looking to trade this market though, we are correcting towards the 11840 now, and this would be viewed as the opportunity technically to look for a bearish reversal down to the 115.12. Next is pound yen. Pound yen has been a superb market, outperforming many markets, especially those in the dollar pairs. And when you get this kind of a market, you just want to ride it until the wheels fall off. Conversely, when you have a market which is sideways like the dollar pairs, you really want to stay out of it until you see that first move, until you start to see the move. So going into this week, once again going to be looking for long positions in this market. It is on the high probability watch list. Any further correction is going to be viewed once again as an opportunity to look for long positions. And any bullish reversals will provide the opportunity to look for longs up towards the next key of resistance to the upside at the 150.68. Next is Aussie yen. Aussie yen was highlighted as one to watch to the upside last week, and in fact I was asked in the comments by Derek Smart, what is your number one market for next week? And it was last week Aussie yen. We had a really nice move into the targets before selling off when we had that risk off move when the stock market sold off. Going into this week, however, I do still favor long positions in this market. We've had a big sell-off, but we need to stabilize a little bit. If we start to come down a bit further, which I expect we will, any bullish reversal next week will simply be viewed as another opportunity to look for long positions up towards the next key of resistance, the upside, the target set at the 84.49. Next is CAD yen. Last week highlighted this as one to watch to the upside, and we did take out not just both targets, but also the third target on the chart. Going into this week, I do still like long positions in this market, and any bullish reversal, any breakout to the upside in this market is going to be viewed next week as an opportunity to look for long positions up towards the next key of resistance, the upside, the target set at the 85.15. Next is New Zealand yen. Last week highlighted this as one to watch to the upside. We had a really explosive move, taking out both targets and then some. Going into this week, I still like this despite the sell-off. This is simply viewed as a correction in an overall uptrend. So any bullish reversal in this market, any bottoming pattern, we start to break out to the upside, is going to be viewed as an opportunity to start to look for long positions up towards the next key of resistance, the upside and the target set at the 78.81. Next is Euro franc. Now last week Euro franc had its annual attempt at trying to reach the moon. We highlighted this as one to watch last week, and in previous weeks we've been trying to get you on the bullish side of this market, and anybody who's been following the forecast would have been on the right side of this market, or at the very least not on the wrong side of it. Going into this week, I still like this huge momentum to the upside. We should be seeing higher highs in this market. Any correction is going to be viewed once again as an opportunity to look for long positions. Up towards the next key of resistance, the upside and the target set at the 1.1056. Euro New Zealand, last week highlighted as one to watch to the downside, took out both targets and finished more or less the week at the second target. Going into this week, this big rally is just simply viewed as another opportunity to look for bearish reversals. And any bearish reversals in this market are going to be viewed once again as an opportunity to start to look for short positions down towards the next key of support to the downside and the target set at the 1.6293. Next is EurUsd. We took out both targets to the downside last week and we ended up having that risk off rally from the second target last week. Going into this week, this rally, this is a bit of a funny looking chart, but this is still just a pullback in the overall downtrend as it stands. We haven't taken out the 1.57080. So in all of these charts, if we take out the red or the green level, that defers the chart until the week after. We no longer are looking to trade that market. We need to let the week pass and then we'll come back to it the following week. It comes off of the watch list. As it stands, we haven't taken out this high. We have not yet reversed in this market. So I am still interested in short positions despite this big rally to the upside. What we'd have to see is, though, we'd have to see the market start to reverse. If we start to reverse in this area, any breakout to the downside, any reversal is going to be viewed as an opportunity to look for short positions back down towards the next key of support to the downside and the target set at the 1.5235. Next is Euro Pound. Now last week we took out both targets to the downside and they were major targets which had been highlighted on YouTube, on Twitter since the start of the year. And Euro Pound has been a great pair. We finally took out those targets, but I am still bearish on this market despite taking out those major targets. We have not yet reversed to the upside, and just because we hit those major areas of support does not mean we're not going to continue through them. So going into this week, I still favor short positions in this market. We've already pulled back and any further correction is simply going to be viewed once again as an opportunity to short this market as long as we remain below the 0.87970. Any bearish reversal is going to be viewed as an opportunity to go short down towards the next key of support to the downside, the target set, the 0.8538. Next is Euro CAD. Highlighted last week as one to watch to the downside. We did take out the target at the 1.52460. Going into this week, it comes off the high probability watch list. I think there are better markets, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this get a bit choppy next week. For anybody looking to trade this market, however, we've already corrected towards the 1.54180, and this would be viewed as the opportunity to start to look for bearish reversals in this market down to the next key of support at the 1.5215. Next is Pound Franc. Pound Franc has been another great performing currency pair this year, and it's a currency which we've kept you on the right side of. We've had really nice moves to the upside. We've started to pull back, so very simply put, after taking out both targets to the upside last week, this correction is now viewed as another opportunity to start to look for bullish reversals in this market. And we're going to be looking up towards the next key of resistance, the upside, the target set, at the 1.2819. Next is Pound Aussie. Last week we took out both targets to the downside before reversing higher. This reversal higher does point towards higher highs, especially with this momentum in this market. So very simply put, going into this week, any correction in this market would be viewed as an opportunity to look for bullish reversals up towards the next key of resistance, the upside, and the target set at the 1.8215. Next is Pound CAD. Last week we highlighted this as one to watch to the upside, and we took out the targets almost to the pip last week. Very simply put, I do still favour long positions, so any correction in this market next week would be viewed once again as an opportunity to look for bullish breakouts up towards the next key of resistance, the upside, and the target set at the 1.8052. Pound New Zealand, it's a choppy market. I think there are better opportunities out there next week. It's highly unlikely I'm going to be trading this. If you do want to trade this market, however, I would favour short positions in this market. This correction back towards the 1.93580 should be viewed technically as an opportunity to look for bearish reversals down towards the next key of support to the downside and the target set at the 1.8875. Next is Aussie Swiss franc. Highlighted this last week as one to watch to the upside, and we ripped through both targets to the upside. Coming into this week, I do still favour long positions in this market. This is down as one to watch. We need to stabilise this sell-off a little bit, and then what I'll be looking for next week is any bullish reversal in this market will be viewed as another opportunity to start to look for long positions up towards the next key of resistance, the upside, and the target set at the 0.7165. Next is Aussie CAD. We highlighted this as one to watch to the upside last week, and we did come up and take out the target set. Very simply put, going into this week, this sell-off is still viewed just simply as a correction, and any stabilization and bottoming of this, so any bullish reversal to the upside in this market, will be viewed next week as an opportunity to look for long positions up towards the next key resistance, the upside of the target set, 0.9937. Next is Aussie New Zealand. In previous videos, we highlighted the 1.07910 to look for a reversal. We've started to reverse in this market down towards the 1.0570. So any correction in this market next week would be viewed as an opportunity to look for bearish reversals down towards the next key of support to the downside, the target set from last week at 1.0570. Next is New Zealand CAD. New Zealand CAD wasn't on the watch list last week and it reversed to the upside. It does go down as one to watch this week. I am interested in long positions in this market. Very simply put, we've already started to sell off, so any continued correction will be viewed as an opportunity to look for bullish reversals next week up towards the next key of resistance, the upside, the target set, 0.9299. Next is New Zealand franc. Last week we highlighted this high probability move to the upside and we had an explosive rally to the upside. We just smashed through all the targets, very similar to Euro franc. Very simply put, going into this week, we've started to sell off. This sell-off is simply viewed as a correction, as an opportunity to start to once again look for bullish reversals up towards the next key of resistance, the upside, the target set at 0.6734. And last but not least, we have CAD franc. This was down as a high probability market to the upside last week. And with that Swiss franc sell-off, we had an explosion in this market to the upside as well as with the other Swiss franc pairs. We kept you on the right side of all of those markets. Very simply put, going into this week, I do still favor long positions in this market despite the sell-off. This correction is viewed as an opportunity to look for bullish reversals once again up towards the next key of resistance, the upside, the target set at 0.7245. So that is it for me for this week, guys. Remember, the name of the game is not to trade every single market. It's to find the best setups out of those higher probability moves and trade those markets next week. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please let me know by liking, sharing, and subscribing. A big thank you to everybody who does that on a regular basis, and a big thank you to everybody who has subscribed to the channel, who comments on the channel, and everybody who shares the content as well. I want to wish you all a nice weekend and a fantastic trading week next week. The only thing left to say is take care, and don't forget to trade safely.